and welcome to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be going over my fall TBR. So like I said in the opening of the video, today I'll be going over some of the books that are going to be on my fall TBR. But before I do that, I want to go over some of my favorite fall reads with you guys. These are books that either I read in the fall time or just give like peak fall vibes, kind of like my spring TBR and spring reads video, where it was like, these aren't necessarily like the most springiest books, but they give spring to me. These are the same thing, but with fall. One thing about me is that I don't love like witchy books in the fall. Like I love a witchy book, don't get me wrong, but I don't think those should be like exclusive to fall time. I'm also like that with vampires. These might not necessarily be like your stereotypical like fall where it's like vampires and ghosts and like woo woo shit, but like some of that will be in here, don't worry. So to start us off strong with a book that I highly recommend picking up in the fall time, mainly because this author's releases almost always coincide with fall, which is like my favorite thing about this series, is going to be Assistant to the Villain. I absolutely adore these books. They're by Hannah Nicole Mayer. There's 3 out right now, and the 4th one is coming out. Actually, it'll be out by the time that this video goes up. I'm pre-filming this. So right now I have a couple days left, but the video should be out after the 4th book in this series is released. They usually come out in August, which to me, fall starts as soon as 4th of July is over. Like, I'm ready for Halloween. I'm ready for pumpkins. I'm ready for spooky season. Like, July 5th. But these books almost always come out in August, and I absolutely adore them. So in this first one, we are following our female main character, Evie, who is looking for a job, and she sees a job availability with their local villain. So she applies, and she ends up being his assistant. And the story kind of takes off from there. It has, you know, equal parts found family, a little bit of like a forbidden romance element. There's like lots of different things going on, kind of like in the background that start to uncover themselves as the series goes on. With this first book, we're really focused on just the villain, just his team, what's going on in the castle. Like, it is directly impacting, you know, Evie and her coworkers' day-to-day lives. Whereas by the time we hit, you know, the 3rd book, we're talking about like the entire world. Really, we're talking about their whole kingdom. So we start expanding more and more as the books go on, and that's one of my favorite parts about it as well. All right, I didn't put these in any order. I'm realizing like as I'm picking them up, which like I probably should have made an order so it makes sense, but also this is my video, so I can do what I want. But the next book to talk about that kind of gives fall vibes is And They Were Roommates. This one is another one that I absolutely adore. I think I talked about this in my summer Pride reads, I think this was my like red on the cover book. This one takes place in the fall. It starts in September, I believe, and goes through their like end of season dance. I guess that's probably like late November, early December. But so this one, we are following a trans student who attends a boys only boarding school, and the roommate ends up being their ex-boyfriend that they dated before their transition. So I really enjoyed this one, had a really great time with it. It does have like an underlying like tone with Valentine's Day, and like obviously the coloring, it's kind of giving like romance, but it does take place in the fall. It does have very peak like fall like school vibes. It has that academia setting without feeling like dark or ominous. So if you're more of like a light reader or you really don't like dark academia, this one's a really good one for just regular old like vibes of school days. So really enjoy this one. Another really big fall read for me is going to be Shield of Sparrows. This one is the first in a trilogy. So the 2nd one's out right now. The 3rd one's coming out, I believe, next spring. And the main reason why this one really gives fall vibes to me is because it's set so much in the wilderness. I don't think there's any time period specified in the book of like, it's the fall equinox or anything like that. But I feel like this one just gives like fall vibes. Like in this one, we are following our main character Odessa as she marries a prince of a foreign land. And so she ends up traveling from her home, her birthplace, to where this king resides. And in the meantime, she meets a like group of people that literally live in trees. And I feel like there's nothing more fall than just like hanging out in a tree and living in a tree. And so that's why this one gives a lot of fall vibes to me. I know that I said that this wasn't going to be all like woo-woo, spooky, witchy stuff, but this next one is a book about witches, and that is Heartless Hunter. This one's by Kristen Cicerelli, and this is the first book in the Crimson Moth duology. In this one, we are following our female main character who goes by the Crimson Moth at night, and she's a witch who helps save other witches from persecution. But during the day, she poses as like this elite socialite. So in this one, we're following our female main character, Rune, as she enters a fake dating relationship with the like captain of the guard, her best friend's brother. And so she's dating him to get more information on these witches that he's capturing. He's dating her to get more information on the Crimson Moth. And they kind of end up, benefiting each other, but also having this like very like will they, won't they, like true enemies to lovers, which I absolutely loved. And even though these books are a little bit thicker, I think the other one is just a little thicker than this one. These fly by really, really quick. Like I genuinely think that you could read both like books in the duology in less than a week. Like they go by so fast. So definitely a 10 out of 10 for this one. Definitely recommend it in the fall time. And like I said, it's witchy, but without being like super on the nose of what we usually think of as like witches. They're witches in like a different sense, and they use blood magic. And like carving these like runes into their skin is kind of how they go about completing their spells. And I think that's a lot different than other magical systems that we see. Okay, going back to a book that is a little bit more academia adjacent, we have A Thousand Pieces of You. This one is by Claudia Gray, and it is the first book in a trilogy. And so in this one, we're following our female main character, Marguerite, I think is what her name is. And so in this one, she is the daughter of two like physicists who come up with a way to basically time travel. And so you kind of like get taken into different like versions of reality, even though it's not really like time travel in the normal sense of like you go back and like everyone's still the same. You're going into different versions of reality where different things have happened. And so society is at different like technological standpoints. Like in, one of these versions, she ends up going back to kind of like a like pre-czar era of Russia. And then in a different version, she's, still here in the States, but we have way better technology than we do now. And so it's giving that kind of element of like a time traveling, of kind of like academia, of like big, heavy science brain energy. When her father is murdered, they believe it's one of his like star pupil students. And so her and another student start to kind of dimension skip to chase after him to get him to fess up for his crimes. And like I said, this is the first book in a trilogy. I've only read this first one. So I need motivation to pick up the rest of the series because I own it. But right now, I really enjoyed this one. I thought that it was super interesting, a very different take on kind of like a time traveler science fiction kind of novel like this, but with a like younger female heroine, which I also thought was a great time. Another book that I recommend every single fall is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. In this one, we're following our female main character who is part of a like war going on called the Hurricane Wars, and they are fighting against the like Night King, I think is what they call him, or Night Emperor. Yes, Night Emperor. So they're fighting against him and his kind of regime that use their like dark magic to, like kind of what's the word, conquer, to kind of conquer different civilizations. And so our female main character actually has light magic. She's an orphan, so she doesn't really know anything about her past or her history, but she does have this light magic, and she kind of uncovers who she truly is, where she truly belongs. It's Raylo fanfic. So if you are an Adam Driver girly and absolutely adore him, our male main character is him. I had such a great time. I absolutely adore this one. There are 2 books out in the series right now. The third one, I believe, comes out later this year. I think is it a November release? So still definitely perfect time to get these 2 in before that last book in the series comes out. Okay, this next one is one that I do not talk about nearly enough, and that is Forged in Magic by Jenna Wolfhart. This is the first book in the Falling for Fables series. So in this one, we are following a half orc as she kind of escapes her like bargain that she's been in. And so part of this like way of her getting out of this bargain is that she needs to infiltrate this village and kind of figure out what's going on with it. So we're following her as she develops a relationship with one of the people in the town, uncovering their secrets and kind of piecing together why the person that she had been working with wants to know what's going on with them so badly. So this one is the first in the series. I've read the first 2. I believe there's 5, but they are all like kind of like cozier romantic-y books. They are a little bit chunky, but there is always a little bit of a mystery that we're solving. So this one, we're in this town, we're figuring out what's going on. In the second book, we're following this main male character's sister, and she's at like a traveling like circus kind of festival. So there's always something going on like magic wise, but it's also like happy, cozy, cutesy, sweet. So a really good time with that one. This wouldn't be a good video of mine if I wasn't recommending something Ali Hazel would. So for the fall time, I recommend Love Theoretically. In this one, we're following our female main character, Elsie, who is a chronic people pleaser as she works towards becoming a tenured professor at a college. That's kind of her like goal, her dream, her ambition. And she thinks that this guy, Jack, who works at this college, is working against her, is preventing her from getting the job that she wants. But in actuality, he has a lot more respect for her than she realizes. And so this one's super funny, super cute, but also has a lot of those like good, valid, like feminist points that Ali Hazelwood always makes in her novels. I think this one's perfect for fall time, but also anytime. I know that I said that I didn't do the usual typical like witchy vampire woo woo stuff for the fall TBR, but another book that I think it's great to read in the fall is Blood Orange. This one's by Karina Halley. In this one, we're following Dahlia as she is sent by her witch coven to kill a vampire in Italy. So she's posing as a music student since he is a music professor, and she is supposed to go after him, prove he's a vampire, kill him. And so that should be pretty straightforward and simple, except she is the reincarnation of his soulmate. So he's basically been forced to live forever for all of eternity, and his soulmate keeps getting reincarnated and she passes away. So this is following their story and kind of what's going on with them, him living his immortal life and falling in love with her over and over and over again while knowing that she's destined to die. So this one's really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a duology, but it's also in a series of other books. So kind of like duet style, where this is two books and then there's another two books that follow other characters in this world. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. And the last book that I have read that I recommend you guys add to your fall TBRs is going to be The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. This one is by Bridget Knightley. The sequel literally just came out like not even 2 months ago. But this one we are following our female main character who works with the healing faction and our male main character who works with a faction that's known for being criminals and assassins. And basically he has rot in his magic. So he's trying to figure out how to prevent his magic from like dying, because once he doesn't have magic, he's not valuable to his faction anymore. And so they are working together to kind of cure his rot using an experimental kind of procedure that she actually created. And in return, he's helping her to kind of fund some research going on an illness that's affecting kids in their country. So overall, really enjoyed this one. It is Dramini fanfic that got trad published. So you can kind of tell like the girl is very Hermione coded and the guy is very Draco, like Malfoy coded. I think that's his name. It's very Draco coded. And so overall, I really enjoyed this one, had a good time. I think it's duology. It might be a trilogy. We shall see. But I really enjoyed this one. I'm super excited to pick up the sequel. Okay, so now that we have gone over the books that I've read that I think you should add to your fall TBR, here are some books that are on my fall TBR to try to get read this fall. This is a book that I know a ton of people absolutely adore, and I'm very nervous if I'm going to actually like it or not. And that is The Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sengu Mandana. I don't know a ton about this one. I just know that it's about a girl who is like pretending to be a witch online, but she's actually a witch. And so she gets recruited by, I think, a school. It basically is asking her to travel to this house to teach 3 young witches. And I know that it has like a good amount of fan family. I know that our female main character falls in love with, he's like the librarian or something. Yeah, the prickly librarian. So like it sounds super cute and super adorable, but since everyone loved it, if I don't love it, I'm worried that there's something wrong with me as a reader. So the pressure is on to like this book, which hopefully I'll give a try this fall. Okay, the next book that I'm hoping to read later this fall is The Ever King. This is the first book, and I believe it's called the Ever Seas series. This one is by LJ Andrews, which I've had the pleasure of meeting, and she's super sweet, super amazing. I just have yet to read this book. I don't know a ton about this. I know that it has a lot to do with like Vikings and Norse mythology. I believe it's also about a guy who is hoping to like get revenge on the guy who killed his dad, and in doing so, like falls in love with his daughter, which is very interesting. So it's kind of like enemy's daughter romance. I don't know if that's a thing. Is that like a thing? That sounds kind of mafia romancy. But this is kind of fantasy, like I said, Vikings, pirates, like that kind of thing. Okay, this next book that I'm hoping to put on one of my fall TBRs is The Rogue King. So this is the first book in the Inferno Rising series by Abigail Owens. So in this one, we are following our male main character who has waited, I think it's like 500 years. Yeah, He's been waiting for 500 years to like challenge the king of a clan of dragon shifters. And in the meantime, he's just been a rogue solo, like not attached to any clan dragon shifter. And so he forms an unlikely alliance with a girl who like has, I guess, like a lot of sway or power in their realm. It doesn't really explain on the back of the book what her kind of deal is. So I'm assuming that that means that she's like super powerful and has like a lot of secrets and stuff. But basically, we are following dragon shifters, which I think is super fall coded. Like, I don't know if it is actually going to be like a good fall read. It's just giving like fall vibes because I think a dragon shifter book would be fun in the fall. This next book that I'm hoping to get on my fall TBR is actually a like mystery thriller-ish kind of book, but it also has like a romance subplot. So it's called She Doesn't Have a Clue. And in this one, we're following our female main character who is an author who gets invited by her ex-fiance to his wedding to his new like fiance. She for some reason decides to go. She agrees, and it's taking place off of like an island off the coast of Seattle, so pretty local to where I'm at. And basically, the bride is poisoned, and our female main character, Kate, finds a dead body. So we know something is afoot, something bad is going on. But it looks like another guest and Kate, our main character, team up to kind of like solve this mystery and figure out who is hurting the bride and these other wedding guests. So kind of like one by one. Is that one Ruth Ware book where they're kind of like getting ticked off one by one? I think that's it. But it kind of gives that vibe. It kind of gives Clue because it's also supposed to be like a little bit funny. So I'm very hopeful that this one will be a good read for the fall time. So, keeping in the vein of mystery thrillers, where it's kind of like they're getting ticked off one by one, is They Never Learn. This one is a like little cutie mass market paperback by, I believe her name's Lane Fargo. Yes. And so in this one, we're following our two female main characters. I believe one's a student and the other one's a professor at the same university, and kind of how they go about tackling the bad behavior of the men on campus at this college. So, sounds super fun, super interesting. I also think that even though it is like a little chunky. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that it is this mass market paperback style. But I am super excited to do another like psychological thriller set in a university because I think that I do really enjoy those. Another book that I'm hoping to get in this fall is actually the start of a series, Are We Surprised? And that is Off to the Races, which is the first book in the Gold Rush Ranch series. I think that any time of year is a good time of year to pick up a cowboy romance. I'm especially excited for this one because I know that this particular series also connects to her other series. Elsie Silver loves to do that. So I don't think that anyone in this book is related to anyone from Chestnut Springs, but I do know that the second book features Violet's love story, and Violet is the older sister to some of the Eaton boys that we know from Chestnut Springs. So it'll be kind of fun to see her story and how that like all plays out. But I'm also very excited for this one and hoping to get this one read pretty soon. So another book that I'm hoping to get on my fall TBR that is a little bit witchy, a little bit woo-woo stuff is Vespertine. This one is by Margaret Rogerson. And in this one, we are following our female main character who's been training to join this kind of like faction of nuns is kind of how it's described, where their main job is removing bodies so that way the spirits can pass on. And in kind of, like training and trying to join this coven, I guess is what we'll call them, they end up getting attacked by an army of undead. And so our female main character takes it upon herself to kind of uncover the mysteries, uncover the secrets as to why this kind of dark magic is happening, why this necromancy is affecting her. Hi, sweet boy. Is affecting her kind of like coven and what they can do to kind of stop it. So I think that's super fun, super interesting. I don't know if this is a standalone. If I'm being honest, this might be part of a series. I just haven't done the research on it yet, but I am super excited to read it eventually. This next book that I am hoping to read sometime this fall has another kind of lighthearted academia setting, and that is Lessons in Faking. This one is by Selena May. And so in this one, we're following our female main character who, after the death of her parents, is noticing her brother kind of pulling away and spending less time with her. And so, in a plan to kind of get her brother's attention again, she decides she wants to fake date his enemy. And so we have fake dating, which we always love. We have a school setting, it's set at a university. And also, look how pretty the sprayed edges on this thing are. Like, I'm just obsessed. I think this is the start of a different series, but I don't know if any of the other books in it are out yet. But I am super excited to read about this. I always love a fake dating romance. And it just looks so fun. This next book is another kind of woo-woo spooky book, but also kind of like a cutesy romance. So this is Do Your Worst. This is by Rosie Danon. And in this one, we're following our female main character. I believe her name's Riley, who her family has a like business in the paranormal. They kind of just have like a knack for it, a little bit of a sixth sense. And she ends up getting hired as a consultant in I believe it's like an expedition on a Scottish castle. But this male main character, his name's Clark, is not excited to have her on site, and so he's basically doing everything in his power to get her like taken off, to get her removed from this, to get her fired. And so they kind of end up becoming like a little bit of like an adversaries to lovers situation, which I also think is super fun and super cute, especially set in a Scottish castle. Like, who doesn't love that? And also is relatively skinny. I think this is clocking in just over 300 pages. There's like an excerpt from a different book and then like 3 pages of acknowledgments. Yeah, 310 pages. So quick, to the point. I think this will be a super fun, cute read. The next book that I'm hoping to add to my TBR sometime this fall is Bring Me Your Midnights. This one is by Rachel Griffin. And in this one, we're following our female main character, Tana, who is a part of a witch coven. And her life has basically been planned out for her. Like, she knows who she's supposed to marry. She knows what she's going to end up doing with her life. But that all gets upended when a newcomer comes to their coven. His name's Wolf, and he claims to be from a different coven who practices a different magic system. And that kind of turns everything that Tana has known and believed on its head. And she starts to question why things have to be the way that they have been. So I think this one sounds super fun, super interesting. I believe it's also a standalone, which is kind of amazing. So I would absolutely love to get this one read sometime very soon. So these are some of the books that I'm hoping to get read this far. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of them, if you recommend that I read any of them, and if you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and leave the castle emoji for Do Your Worst, since it takes place on a castle. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. I think the light's a little aggressive right now, but we're making do. So these aren't necessarily like, hi Bixby, hi little boy, I love my man. Right? Doesn't it take place in the fall? And so in this book, we are following our female main character. What's her name? Rune. So that's words. And in this one, we are following our female main character, who is, what is she? This is a great question. And so they're fighting against like him and his, yes, sorry, a chronic people pleaser, as she kind of works on, what is she doing? So in this one, we're following Delilah. That's not her name, Dahlia. In this one, we're following Dahlia as she is, what is the word? It's been a long morning already. And that is the Irregular Society. No. Okay. This next book that I'm hoping to get on my fall, I'm going to put it down. Which I'm just now realizing has one of those pesky, ugly Target stickers. So part of me kind of wants to take that off, but I don't really have. We're just going to ignore that it has the 20% off sticker for now.